north, happy, impulsive, joking all the time, not being able to sit down, can't concentrate, feelings of euphoria, danger. And then you have south, which is extreme sadness, suicidal thoughts, total depression and shut down, not being able to eat.
Today's guest is Tommy Cassidy.
Yeah.
Leaving school with little or no qualifications, but was determined to make something of his life, returning to education. He now has 2 degrees, has been a teacher, college and university lecturer, career advisor, rugby coach, and works with pupils with emotional and behaviour difficulties. Was a well-known rugby player and face around town, had the job, the car, the house, the life, but something wasn't right. Outwardly, he was happy. In private, he faced falling into a black hole on a daily basis. He was suffering from bipolar, and no one, including himself, knew. Welcome, Tommy.
Yeah. How are you?
Good, thank you. What is one of the most courageous things you have done?
I think the most courageous thing that I have done, regards to what we're talking about, is coming on this. As I spoke to you before, I found it quite difficult and I try to put it off. But I've seen so much pain and sadness in my family. I just thought it was time that I just did this and explained to people who have known me for many, many years. And those that don't know me, difficult for many years.
For anyone listening that doesn't know what bipolar is, can you explain a little bit about that?
I'll try to explain it in the most basic terms. Some people call it, you may have heard, manic depressive. So basically what it is, it's bipolar. If we imagine we've got north and south. So bipolar basically says that you're either north, happy, impulsive, joking all the time, not being able to sit down, can't concentrate, feelings of euphoria, danger. And then you have south, which is extreme sadness, suicidal thoughts, total depression and shut down, not being able to eat. So bipolar basically is this condition where you're swinging from one to the other. And that's bipolar. You never seem to find a middle ground where you can just function as anyone else would. You're either one or the other. And I've spent quite a few years of my life north-south journey.
Yes. You had bipolar, or something wasn't right for you.
Yeah. I think I've always when I was a younger lad, I used to find things I used to think there was something wrong because I used to get upset over things that no one else did. Or I used to find things really exciting that no one else thought were that interesting. And I used to think then, I had just an inkling that there was something wasn't right there. Why was I the one that was getting really upset about this thing and yet no one else was upset at all? For instance, when I was a kid, really young, 7 or 8, my dad played Old Shep, which is an Elvis Presley song, about a dog having to be put down. And I actually bawled my eyes out about it. But my brother and sister, anyway, I was just laughing, just thought it was hilarious that I was getting so upset. So there was inklings there. Mm-hmm. But I think it was when I was older, when I was when it really hit home is when my mum passed away. That's when the massive problems started then. That's when everything started to fall down around me. And I went through a massive depression, which I struggled with, which is kind of the beginnings of trying to get my, that was really the start of the biggest problems that I had. So it was around about then. Okay. In my late 20s. But before that, it was just Tom. People would say, oh, he's just having a good, when Tom's on, we're all having a great time. So the same people that I used to have such a laugh with and such great times with would be the same people that would get upset with me and angry with me because I was so moody and disruptive. So that was just my personality. But when the situation with my mother came up, that's when I thought, no, there's something wrong, and I need to do something here. Yeah.
And what help did you get? What did you decide to do?
So the problem was I couldn't get over. What had happened is when my mother passed away, just before she'd passed away, she'd had a massive heart attack, and I found her, and I gave her CPR and did the best I could do, and she was taken away. And when I was left, when they took her away in an ambulance, the house went from this craziness where we had ambulance drivers and the medics and paramedics and my dad and everyone running around doing everything they could do, and I just sat I just sort of slid down the wall and just sat there watching this whole situation unfurl, and then they disappeared, and then the house was deadly silent. And it was from that point on I thought, I need help here. I'm not going to be able to deal with this. I'm not going to be able to deal with this situation. So after that, when I couldn't go back to work, I was teaching at the time, and I was teaching for kids with emotional behavioural difficulties, who find the single piece of weakness in you and exploit that, which is, they're in trouble themselves. So I just knew I didn't have the strength to go back to that job. But I also knew that there was something I couldn't get over. My mum's passing, and I couldn't get over the fact that I hadn't changed the situation. So that's when I went to the doctors and just sat there in front of the doctor and just started to cry and just said, look, I can't deal with life at the moment. I just don't want to be around anymore, and I've had enough. So that was my first step. I just decided that I can't cope. And the doctor was absolutely fantastic. In fact, the doctor got quite upset because he was telling me about how his father had died and how he'd gone through the same situation. So I suppose that made me feel better, because this terrible infliction you get is that you think you're on your own. You think you're the only person that has this problem. You think no one else has been through this. But to have your GP break down and cry and say that it's happened to him too, and he's going to do anything he can to help you, that made me feel better. Straight away, I thought, right, someone's going to help me here. And that's what I did. And I took every piece of advice, counsellors, everything. I just accepted any help that I could be given and took it. And that's how my recovery, I suppose you could say, started.
It's really courageous of you to share that. And because like you say, we always think it's just us. There's no one else that can understand our pain or, have a similar situation. But that was absolutely fantastic. You had your GP, and what are the chances he'd been through the same? I mean, he could really understand you. So that's really good.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I tell you how far he went. I tell you how he was a great guy. What he did, this is incredible, really. My main focus, because with this problem I have, is you tend to overthink as well. Like 2 and 2 is 4, but I would say 2 and 2 is 4. So what do? You times 2 by 8, divide that by 3, and then you know what I mean. It's 2 and 2 is 4. But my life, in my brain, I used to overthink everything. If someone was asking me a question, I used to think behind that and think, what are they asking me? So he said to me, so my main focus and my main what was eating me up inside was the fact that I'd given my mother CPR, and I had brought a pulse back and such, but I hadn't saved her. And that was eating me up. That was the worst. That was the thing I could not get past. And I suppose that was my main focus. Why couldn't I have saved the day? Why couldn't I have made up for all the years that I was horrible to my mum, and by that one act, and maybe that, and I couldn't get past that. And then when I went back to the doctors, he brought a fireman in. The fireman was sitting there on the other side of the desk. It was really unusual. And the fireman said, all the shouts that he's ever had and all the times that he's given CPR, he's never been able to bring anybody back.
Wow.
And yet I've managed to do that. And he said, you really should, you really should be proud of yourself for being able to do that. And I was like, I just didn't. You know what I mean? It was fantastic the doctor had gone out of his way to do that, but I just didn't feel that way. I felt a massive letdown to my whole family because it was my responsibility to save the day, and I didn't. And I suppose that has really been one of the biggest problems, the biggest hurdles I've had in my life, to try and get over that situation.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But that is really the doctor going beyond and above to help you there. Definitely. Yeah. So how do you...
Which is fantastic.
Yes. And how do you manage on a day-to-day basis?
I think don't get me wrong, I still do get depressed often. Lots of things happen, and I can. We've spoken before, and if I remember telling you that I would get up to go get dressed, all my nice clothes, and then just go through it, shirt after shirt after shirt, putting it on, because I didn't want to criticize people. And so then I knew, like when I was getting dressed to go out, and I keep changing the clothes, and I used to think, right, there's something wrong here because you're getting upset again. What are you getting upset about now, Tom? Because I didn't want criticism. And I just remember one day when I finally got what I wanted to wear, and I walked down the stairs, and there was a letter. It was a bill that I hadn't seen at the foot of the stairs, and I saw it, and then just my world caved in. That was it. Back upstairs, shirt off, into bed, phone switched off, go to sleep. But that was always my go-to, go to sleep. So what I do now is, this is through counselling and taking every assistance that I can get. Is I don't do that. I don't go straight for the world is ending and I've got no more. This is it. It's finished. I can't handle this anymore. I'm gonna hang myself in the nearest tree, or I'm gonna jump in front of a tree. You get to that point where you face up to the situation and realise that with help, with understanding your problem, you start to realise that, Tom, it's not the end of the world now, right now. You've just been given a bill. It's not the end of the world. It can be paid and life will move on. So now that's what I do, is I just sort of, because I'm an overthinker, I just now try and think positively about any situation. But if I do get into a situation where I can't, I lean on someone else. I speak to one of my best friends. I speak to my sister. I'll speak to, friends and family. If I don't get, looking for that answer that maybe I can't get because I'm so focused on the problem, and then somebody will say something to me and it'll just make it 100 times better. I'm like, yeah, I can move on now. That's okay. And that's how I do it now. You just got to realize that it's not the end of the world. You can get help, and you can help yourself by just trying to think positively. I was told this thing once, and it was really interesting, and I keep this as a matter, and I don't know the full explanation of it, but I think the story was that somebody was talking to an Indian chief. I think that's what it was, but I think people like to say it that way because it sounds an ancient proverb or something. And he had two dogs, and one dog was called, one was a black dog, and it was called depression, sadness, anger, fear, bipolar if you want. And the other dog was called positivity, forward thinking, happiness, smile. And this man said and they were fighting dogs. And the man said to the chief, well, they're going to fight. Who's going to win? Who normally wins? He said, the one that normally wins is the one that you feed. So I just thought to myself, to start off, it was really simple when he said it to me. And I just thought, the one who wins is the one that's going to feed. And then suddenly it was like, all right, got you. I understand. Feed one or the other. When you feel depressed, when you feel sad, when you feel angry, when you feel there's no future, stop feeding that thought. Start to feed about positive things in life, things you can do. Go forward. If you're sat in your house and it's dark and you're feeling sad and lonely, get up. Get up and walk. Get up and do something. That's what I do now. If I'm feeling terrible, if I feel like I'm going low, if I feel something's going to happen, I get my headphones on, stick all my happy tunes, as it were, trainers on, and I get out and I go for a walk, and I look at the sun and I'm smiling at people, and I'll make sure I wave to all my neighbours. And within, I don't know, half an hour, forgot what it was I was upset about. That's what I do now.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely beautiful and well put. And I like your analogy of the story. That's beautiful. So how does it affect your relationships with other people and your family?
That's a good question. I'm glad I never asked you what your questions were going to be, because you've just caught me there. Regards to family, I love my family. I've watched my family over the last few years go through some terrible, terrible ordeals. I've watched my sister go through things that a weaker person would give up. And my beautiful niece and her son and my father. And I've watched these people go through such hell. I love my family, and my family will always be there for me, and I'll always be there for them. So on that side of it, there's no issues there. My family give me the strength, always have, always will. My sister, the little thing, my sister, when she had her first daughter, Cassie, who you know about, but unfortunately passed away from cancer. But when she first had Cassie, before then, my sister will tell you, her and I used to fight like cat and dog. We were terrible, all out. We just fell out over everything, all up until the age of about 17. And then one day she came into the house with little Cassie, and she put her in my arms. And then from that day on, my life changed, totally changed. And my sister and I have never had, believe this or not, we may have been angry around each other, but from that day on, we've never had a cross word to each other, because I respected I don't know what it was, but little Cassie just changed the family. And that's been difficult to watch that little girl go through what she's gone through. But if it wasn't for my family, I mean, my issues don't compare to what my sister's been through. If you ask her what's being brave, ask her what she knows what's being brave. But relationships wise, family, not a problem. Friends, I have friends that I turn to, and they've been absolutely fantastic recently. I don't want to name them because I don't want to embarrass them on here, but I've got friends that would never let me down and have always been there for me, and they've been absolutely amazing for me the last few months. And then you've got other friends that are fair weather friends that just like to see you smiling and happy, but then those people probably don't understand what you're going through, and I don't mind that. But I think in relationships wise with partners, that's always been a major problem for me, sadly. I think a lot of people just can't handle, someone's mood swings that way, and I can totally understand and appreciate that it's very difficult. But as I've got older, I'm feeling a lot better now, and in that regard, I think someone's going to be a lucky girl.
Definitely, Tommy, definitely.
No, I feel so much better as a person now. But yeah, family's everything to me, and that's the one thing that keeps me going. My sister and my family.
In what way has your illness affected your career? Because that must have had a huge impact on you.
Same thing.
On it.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, so my first teaching position, I got there, and I was doing ever so well. I mean, I'd got head a year. I'd taken up more subjects. I was there 4 years at Boxmoor Boys School, and I was doing so well there, really enjoying that. And then when this happened, when my mum passed away, I had to leave that job, which was heartbreaking, really, because I really enjoyed that job. And then when I got over that situation, I then moved on to, I worked in careers advice, and again, doing well, really enjoying that position, working with young people, it wasn't just careers advice, it was advice, and so some people kids used to come in and just have problems that we could talk about and stuff, so I really enjoyed that. But once again, the black hole arrived, and I again went into a deep depression and sadly lost that job. Had to give that job up. And it's, to cut a long story short, it's pretty much been that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I get somewhere, to get a good position, enjoy the job, for some reason something kept creeping in, and I would just lose focus and get sad, and again, sadly, trying to do things on my own where I could have just asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it used to be like. Now I can see when the stress indicators start to come in. And I think, right now I'm going to hold on, because what I've realised now is that in a job, it's okay to say no. Don't just say yes to everything that's being asked of you. You're a human being, the same as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So my tip to anyone else out there is, do not be afraid to say no.
Mm-hmm.
If your plate is full, you never seem to have a problem with saying no, thank you, that's enough, I've got enough here. It's the same with the job. If you are to there with as much as you can do, just politely say no. And I never did that. Now I do, and it's been a lot easier. I've found that the stress levels just reduce, and it's just a simple word: no. Not in a nasty way, but before I was go, okay, I'll do that, and then you can't do that. You can't live that way.
Yes.
So
and I totally agree with you, because, like, it's about self-care. You take on too much and you're stressing yourself out. Sometimes you just have to be open and honest and say, no, you just can't manage. You can't do it. I mean, that's for anybody. Absolutely. It's being honest with yourself as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the overarching point there. Be honest with yourself.
Yes.
About everything. If you're struggling, just be honest. I'm struggling. I mean, I know that the theme here is about men's mental health. And so, hopefully someone out there right now who's maybe attuned to things I've been saying and understands maybe even the smallest point of what I'm trying to make here. Just be honest with yourself. If you're not happy, if something's not making you happy, or if nothing's not making you happy, you're just not happy. Or if you're worrying constantly, or if you just feel that you don't want to get out of bed constantly, or you just don't want to go to work constantly, reach for help. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to cope with things. Other people are there to help you with that. So if you can't cope, some people can, and it's fantastic. Well done, you. Big round of applause. But there's other people that cannot cope with situations, and there is help. And just reach out. Just be honest.
Yes, definitely.
And say no.
I know there's Bipolar UK support. Are there any other helplines or places of support that you know of? Any additional outlets, that you've used or turned to?
Well, I used, obviously, through the National Health, I was referred to psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors. I've spoken to many, many counsellors. I understand some people may go onto websites and look up bipolar and what does it mean, and then see if it fits in. What I would suggest is, rather than doing that, if somebody really feels they have an issue, there's something not right, the first port of call is your GP. Go to your GP straight away. And then I know, you can go on websites and there are so many on Facebook. There are so many organisations and self-help groups and groups where, like bipolar, that have depression, all these things, where there's people there, and you can all link together and talk together and realise. I think LinkedIn as well. There's so many on social networks that you can speak to people. And it's amazing. Sometimes their stories are exactly the same as yours. But what I found useful is, as I say, with a counsellor, regular counsellor. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, it was fantastic to actually sit with someone who has an understanding of the issues behind why you feel the way you feel, and allows you to speak, and then you sort of come away from that and you just think, yeah, they understand me, and that's helping me with the mechanics of what the problem is. So if anyone feels maybe they may have a mental health issue, and don't be embarrassed by that, because I say that in a matter-of-fact way, because it's an injury that you have that isn't so obvious. I could have a broken finger and you could see that, but if there's something wrong with my brain and my emotions, you can't see it, and you feel a bit embarrassed by saying it. But don't be. I'm not embarrassed by saying I have bipolar. Doesn't bother me. It's the same as saying I have an injury in my arm and I go and see a physiotherapist. If I've got something wrong in my mind that needs help, I go and see a mind physiotherapist. He's a counsellor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
That's brilliant.
So I don't have any problems with saying that.
Yeah, that's good. So I know you've covered this a little bit, but what words of wisdom or what advice would you give anyone suffering from bipolar?
Firstly, I want you to know that you're not on your own. Okay, so if there's someone out there right now that's watching this, I want you to understand that I know exactly how you're feeling. I may not know the reasons why you feel this way, but I know how it feels. I know that your stomach's churning and you can't concentrate and you're angry, or maybe you're just really, really sad and you can't stop crying and nothing seems to be going right in life right now. So what I'd say is, firstly, is that you are absolutely 100% not alone. Secondly, you need to turn to someone else to help you. This is something you cannot deal with on your own. Now, if you've got friends and family, someone you can trust, speak straight, just let them know. I know for a fact that your friends and family would rather you tell them or them to lose you. You just have to trust me on that and believe that that's the truth. You have a friend, you have someone in your family that would rather listen to you all day, 24 hours of your complaints, than lose you. So don't worry about that. Seek help. Get someone to help you. Go to your GP and just do what I did. I went to my GP and just said, I cannot cope, and I don't know what to do. And that was my journey, starting from there. But one thing I must say is, just believe me when I say there are thousands of people out there that feel this way, the way you're feeling, if and the way I feel. And there are thousands of people out there that can help you with that. But you just got to take that first step. Every great journey and all that is one that you just take the first step. And once you take that first step, you'll realize there are people that are going to help you continue on that journey. And don't fall for the demon dog. Don't feed it anymore. Feed positivity. If you're starting to feel negative, don't feed that with any more thoughts. Just start to think positive. Do positive things. And if that means just getting up, do what I do. Stick in your headphones, listen in some corny tunes that make you laugh, sticking your trainers on and walking around the block and coming back, then that's what you need to do. But no more feeding that dog.
Thank you. That's excellent.
That's what I think.
That's great. So I know you're a rugby player, a man's man, laddish, whatever the term one likes to use these days. So how has that affected your life? You know, because that was all a front. And then at the back of that, you're not.
I think the rugby, I loved rugby. It's changed my life. It was an outlet for me.
Okay.
I started playing that game. Well, I was introduced to it when I was about 6 or 7 years of age. And as I've said quite openly to a lot of people, it was never about the sport itself. It was an outlet, a vent. It was a way of getting my frustrations out. Like if I was getting bullied at school, And especially if it was someone in my year that was continuing to bully me, I knew that when the rugby season come round and games lessons came round, I could hurt them, but not in a nasty way like punch or anything. I could play the game, but embarrass them and let them realise that I'm not a soft touch and leave me alone. But there was also this burning anger inside me that kept me wanting to play this game. I was no good at any other sport. I mean, I did in the end become pretty good at other sports, but to me it was like, oh, I've got this outlet here. When even if I'm angry or if I'm happy, it doesn't matter. It won't, like when I was older and I understood what the problems were, if I was in a angry, depressed mood, I'd be more defensive and more aggressive and just, go harder in. And if I was in a happier, more elated mood, I try to be a bit more skillful and I was enjoying the game more. But that was another hard thing to deal with. Obviously you get to a certain age and you can't play the game anymore. And that was another wrench for me, to give it up. So luckily when I did, I started coaching anyway, so I was still sort of involved in it. But that was a bit of a wrench. But again, no one realised it's a team sport. But I kind of, and this is going to sound a bit harsh, but I did it really for myself because of my issues. I played the game because it was the physical contact, and you could mask how you felt, and that was one thing I really enjoyed about it. I loved it. But it was interesting as well that I know a few boys that I've played rugby with that feel the way I feel, that are having problems and issues. I'll hopefully reach out to them about this. But they're the roughy tufty guys. But I know that I've seen some of these guys brought to tears over things in life. When they just get to that point where they just can't cope, but they just burst into tears, and then you just think, "Oh, I wish you told me this earlier." It's such a simple, it's a simple answer to this problem that you've got right now. But yeah, me and rugby probably saved my life at some point.
That's brilliant.
Because I've got to be honest with you, Anita, I have sort of avoided saying this, but there were times when I wanted to end things. There were some dark thoughts, dark times. The only thing that would ever take that out of my brain was my family, my friends, the realization that, that is just a long-term solution to a short-term problem. And there's no need to feel that way. Because I know that, look, again, people don't maybe don't address that, but this is what I'm saying to people. If you start to feel that way, again, you need to reach out first. Because, again, there's someone out there that would rather you bore them constantly with your sad tales than to lose you forever. So, no, that's nothing to do with rugby, but I'm hoping that just sort of enters someone's brain that I know right now that sometimes feels that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's really helpful and very raw and honest of you. Thank you for sharing that, Tommy. If anybody did want to reach out to you, can they do that online, or are you willing to have a chat with anybody? Can they find you online?
Yeah, of course I am. I have no issues with that at all. Yeah, we could arrange that. Not a problem. If someone wants to talk to me, I've got no issues with that at all.
Yeah.
As I say, I've been through it over the last, all my life really, I suppose. I understand where it all generated from, but I've been through this. I've seen some sights. I've felt some ways. I've gone to the lowest of the low, to the highest of the highs. And I definitely feel I'm coming out the other side. And that's just really for the combination of help that I've received from people and an understanding. So, yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to some people about it. There could be people that just want to offload, or there might be people out there that really know where they need to go or what they need to do. I'm happy to speak to people if they need that.
Yeah, are you on social media if somebody wanted to reach out or get in touch with you?
Yeah,
that's good.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your most courageous journey with us today. And by doing so, I know you would have helped so many others. I mean, being open and honest about your story will help so many others. Tommy Cassidy.
I hope so. That was the whole point.
Definitely. My last question to you is, what is your definition of courage?
It's hard for me to, I'll tell you what I'll do. When my niece had her cancers, and I heard a song once, and it just described her, because as far as I'm concerned, she had the things that she faced, the courage that she showed. This song seemed to fit with it. So what my definition of courage is just a couple of lines from this song, and it's to dream the impossible dream. That's what it was called, and it was. If anyone wants to listen to that, it's by Luther Vandross. It's the best version of this. So it's it's to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave dare not go. And those few lines there describes what courage is to me. To fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave dare not go. That's what's courageous. That's what's courage.